Fit like a D, Danny Min here, and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. This one's going to be, there's going to be a couple of these. They're going to be like sort of showcases and sort of tutorials on how these industries work. Someone contacted me in private messenger on my on the channel Facebook account, and they were asking why or how they noticed that I had a lot of industries in here when it came to the series, the Around the World in Time series playthrough, and they noticed that I had there was a lot of industry mod packs in there, and they were asking me how did I get them all to work together, because this person has also tried the same thing. But what happens is if you've got too many industry mod packs, they sort of contradict each other. Some industries literally disappear, and you'll see that as we go through this sort of mini series. This is just something I'm doing to sort of show you guys how everything works. It gives me a chance to get some to do some Transport Fever 2 content as well, while I'm sort of building up the Around the World in Time maps. So, first of all, on the list, or back to the main point, they asked how I managed to get everything to work. In actual truth, full disclosure, I didn't. So, a lot of industry packs, some of them work perfectly in sync and harmony together. Others sort of butcher or remove certain things. Like as you see as we'll go on, there are certain industry packs that we will add that will literally remove standard in-game industries. These are the standard in-game industries that we all sort of know and love, or know and hate, because they are so repetitive. Anyone who's watched my channel for any length of period of time know that I was a strong advocate for Transport Fever 2 having lots more industries and diversity in the game, instead of the sort of standard ones we had in Transport Fever 1. Not only did they not add any sort of new industries and just recycled pretty much the old assets from Transport Fever 1, maybe dressed them up a bit. They look good, don't get me wrong. They're great. They do exactly what is said on the tin. But yeah, not only did they not add new industries, but they also limited towns to only accepting 2 goods. Now I believe it was in some sort of effort to save performance. In Transport Fever 1 you had to supply, I think it was either 4 or 6 industries. 3 commercial good types and 3 industrial good types, and that added a lot more traffic on a player's map. A lot more trains, trucks, a lot more routes, ships, planes. No, there were no cargo planes in Transport Fever 1, so no planes. There were passenger planes, but yeah, they added a lot more traffic, a lot more work for a player system to sort of figure out and try to get right. So by limiting kinda the amount of goods vehicles you have in a map, they are actually saving performance, giving the player sort of better performance, more frames, more longevity in the game. Now that is great if you want that sort of thing. I believe that this should have been something that the player should have decided for themselves. Do I want 2 industries? Do I want 3 industries? Do I want 2 good types, 3 good types, 6? Do I even want 1? Do I want to have a city to not receive any good types at all? These should have been things that the player should have been able to decide on. Unfortunately, it goes down to if you trace it back to the Steam, the page, you go to buy Transport Fever, it's got system requirements, and it's got a system requirement as minimum that's basically a potato. And it's like, hey, you can run the game at this. I feel that there are many titles, game developers that suffer from this. In order to get more people to buy the game, they don't want them to be scared away by having too high system requirements. But I believe a game like this, especially Transport Fever 2, that has heavy CPU loads and needs all the RAM on planet Earth, GPU if you're playing at sort of higher resolution, I'm playing at 4K just now, but this is being scaled down to 2K in OBS because the game, for some reason my system hates recording the 4K. It just seems to stutter and lag a lot. Don't know why. I have seen other YouTubers record Transport Fever in 4K. There must be a way, but I can't. But 2K it seems to absolutely love. I mean, I'm getting 120 frames per second right now, which is what my monitor is capped at. So, and that's in 4K, but there's nothing happening on this map. There's nothing really difficult for the system to sort of render in. There's no massive AI challenge for it at the moment. But yeah, I think they should up the minimum requirements for a standard and at least give players the option, whether depending on what your hardware is, to select what industries, have more industries, select what goods types you want to send to a city, etc. That should have been left up to us, but hey ho, it is what it is. So here we go, the industries. Right, so here are our standard industries, and our first batch of industries today are the Freestyle Industry. So we've got Freestyle Industry 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now these are absolutely amazing, and I'll explain why in a minute. So here is a Freestyle Industry 1, and you can configure it. So we'll go into configuration. It can either take an input or it can take an output. This one is, yeah, this takes an input cargo, one input cargo, and it will output one other product. Freestyle Industry 3 is slightly more different, so this can have an in and an in, so 2 ins to get 1 output. Like for example, a standard industry in-game that does this would be the steel mill. So it takes coal and iron ore and it produces steel. But you can also change it up, so you can have 1 in, so you can have 2 inputs going in, but the industry only needs 1 of them to produce the end product, which is great. Or you can have 1 input to output 2 other goods. And it's the same with the fourth. This one's slightly more complicated. So you can have 2 ins to equals 2 outs, 2 ins either accepting 1 at a time, it will get you 2 outs, and in or in or in. So you can have 3 input goods, but it only needs at least 1 of these to come in to work. There's an example of that later. And you can sort of mess around with this, which I'll explain later. Now, set up a little town here, Irvine. So, Irvine, let's have a look. So, Freestyle Industry number 1. Now this one, as you can see, is grain. So this is supplying grain. So it makes 400 max yearly production, which is the standard in-game. So if you were to plant a grain farm, it would do 400, no more, no less. It might actually do less if there's no demand for it, but here it is. And here it is actually struggling. See, the grain trucks are trying to take it up here, which we'll get to in a minute, but they can't because there's not enough. So you can bump this up to 900, right? We'll push play, come out of there, and this should start to go way faster. And if we click on our industry, yeah, it's ramped straight up to 900, and these should hopefully start running with a full load. We can actually go even higher. We can go up to 1600. Why the hell not? So there's no input mode for this. You don't need to touch that. But the output mode, so you can have it produce, instead of 1 grain, you can actually times this by 10. And you can say every turn, or every time it deposits grain, it deposits 10 at a time instead of 1. So instead of getting 1600, you get about 16,000. There you go. There's a lot of grain. Obviously the cargo type is here. Now you can only choose between the standard in-game industries. Even when you add other mod packs, you can't actually, it's just the standard. You can't add any more once you've added newer or different industries to the game. Number of employees. Now if you wanted people to work here, you can select this. You can have buses, trains stop right next to it. People will get out They will walk to the tiny little square right there on the road, and then they will disappear from existence. And basically, that is them at work. They will also require transport to get back to a town or city as well. Now, this industry is quite close to the town, and these people that live sort of this edge of the map, even though these are industries, will actually walk out there. I've seen it done in both maps I've done so far, Coalbrookdale and the Penny Down map. People will actually walk to the industries. There you go. There's people walking there because all the industries I've placed require employees. Now, if no employees show up, that's totally fine. The industry will still run as it's meant to do. There's no issue with that. The last thing on the list is our stockpile. Now, I have this. Now, this is actually configured in real life. This little square is this all the way down and this all the way down. Now, you can make it larger as well, and I'll show you a larger one later. But right now, it's outputting grain to here. These trucks are going up. So these trucks are going up, and they're going into Freestyle Industry number 2. Now, as you can see, so this one is configured to have a production limit set at 400, and now input amount. We've got a lot of grain here, right? So you see that? There's how many grain sitting there? 69 stored, right? If I go to configure and say input amount and change that to 10, there you go. A lot of it just disappeared. This now requires 10 grain to make one bread, one food, and there you go. It's absolutely getting annihilated. It's disappearing super fast. Now, that is something you can do. Maybe you've got a lot of a certain raw material or a certain good going to one of these freestyle industries. The storage is sort of backing up. The trains or trucks are no longer picking up stuff at the raw industry side because there's no demand for it, because the industry is full. You're starting to lose money. So you can change that. You can use up, say 10. That raw industry here will notice that, oh well, these actually need grain again, so they'll start firing out more and more grain, and you can keep it going in a sort of a nice little cycle of using up a lot or using up a less and keeping things running smoothly. So yeah, our Freestyle Industry 2 is much simpler though. So it's a standard input cargo. So we've got grain and it outputs food. The stockpile is set at 5 and width is set at 5, so this is just the standard. So if you were to go and build this, this would be the standard size. Now, the best thing about the Freestyle Industries is you can literally, hold on, go into assets, right? Assets. I thought I had assets downloaded. Apparently I don't. But you can take assets, buildings. I mean, you can even take, right, there's buildings in here, right? We can take this, right? And you can build that right on top of here. You can build anything you want on top of here. And you can make your own industries. So instead of having these assets that are pre-made, you can make your own. And you can design them any which way you want. Just be aware though that something I've noticed, if your stockpile is quite big, like this, you sort of need a building or something that is large enough to cover the entire area of the stockpile, because what happens is if you've got a lot of assets placed around, like when I did the Coalbrookdale furnace, iron ore started getting deposited, so did coal, but it started clipping through buildings and it started to look really strange. So the only way to combat that was to literally increase the input rate to 10 and everything. So as soon as stuff came in, it just got instantly used and was disappeared and was obliterated from existence. So it didn't actually clip through anything or look kind of strange. As you can see, they all work though. We've got trucks here, so I think it's line 2 is going to the city. And there we go. So there's a couple of trucks rolling around. They're going to the city. This area here all accepts bread, which is just fine. and it works. It's perfect. They're also uploading food to over here, which I'll show you in just a second. But another thing we've got is this Irvine Freestyle Industry. This is Freestyle Industry number 1. Again, this is set for input, so it will take an input cargo of food and it will give you money in return. So you deliver food here, right there at Cherry Street, and it gives you money. Just the standard price, I believe. So it calculates what the good is, how far it's travelled, how long it's taken, blah blah blah, and it gives you money. Again, you can build anything on top of here. You can have a little shop asset or a supermarket or something, and voila, that is your sort of food delivery point. Especially, well, right now we still have the standard buildings, which are fine, that accept food, but this will accept food and give you money all on its own. I believe you're line 25, so where is... There should be a truck on this, I'm pretty sure. I can't see the truck. Where are you? You're 4 years old. Alright, you're hidden. Yeah, see, it's made 121,000 just by delivering food back and forth from there. So there's a Freestyle Industry number 1 that produces an output. Here's one that will accept an input and it will give you money. Now I don't know... Yeah, these get money for delivering stuff to these factories as well. So that's really good. So there we go. Freestyle Industry level 1, level 2, and another level 1. Now this is Freestyle Industry number 3. So configure. This is accepting grain. There's a lot of grain. There we go. We'll bump that up to 10. So it starts using more of it. Because it's got 335 stored, which is fine. There we go. It's starting to come down a lot more. As you can see, we're starting to use up all this again. You can place buildings on here, any building you want. Design it to your heart's content. Make it as futuristic or as old school or as realistic as you want. And it's great. That is what is perfect about this mod. So again, 400. This is an in, and in equals an output. Great. So 2 ins, grain and food gives you goods. Now you can make up the weirdest things imaginable. You could say, I don't know, fuel and steel equals tools or something. I think I've actually got one of those set up somewhere. So it's great. Again, the stockpile is large, just so I can sort of show it. You can make it really small. You can make it as small as the tiny little square we've got there. It obviously reduces the amount that a stockpile can hold. So that's your choice entirely. So we've got another line set up. There we go. We're making machines. We're not making machines here though, are we? No, we're making machines down there. So this is Freestyle Industry 3, and this is in or in equals an output. Okay, so we have steel and goods as our 2 inputs. As you can see, we've got that. Well, it is actually making machines. So there it is. But right now we are only importing goods. So goods are coming from here and going to there. But it's still making machines because it only needs one. As you can see, it only needs 1 in or both ins to work. So even if you're not supplying both of the things, both steel and goods, as long as you're supplying one, it's gonna work. It will churn out what you want it to make. In our case, machines. So that's how that works. And then we could sort of go over here. If there's a spare platform, there is. Now this is making steel and fuel. Why, I have no idea. But yeah, we can go over here, right? New line. So go there. And yeah, go to there. Why the hell not? We'll grab a vehicle. Something that carries steel. Yep, probably not. Yeah, grab one of these. Why the hell not? Buy that. Set you on line 12, and off it goes. Now this will go and pick up steel over here, transport it down to here, and then this will now have both inputs, and that's how that works. So that is really easy. Now this is a Freestyle Industry number 3 again, but this one is set for input equals output. So one input will give you 2 outputs. In our case, we are taking coal, and it is outputting steel and fuel. Again, maybe not a real world application or of how these goods are made, but as I can say, this mod lets you make, you can have the craziest, you can have grain and coal, I don't know, equals goods, or you could have, I don't know, bread and wood equals iron ore. You can make it whatever you want, so it's really good. So there we go. Oh yeah, the reason I did this one as well is because it does actually work just fine with Standard Industry. So here are 2 standard coal mines. They're going as fast as they literally can go. They only have 1 production level, so you can't really tamper with them. So they're producing 800, but as you can see, they are struggling massively just to keep up with this. So you could sort of have one of these here. Underneath it, you could go into the industries. You could take a freestyle, you could say output, you can place it underneath here. There we go. So you can't see it, it is there. Click on it, configure, and it is now producing coal. There we go. See how much faster this worked? Now there are other mods that let you increase industrial capacity, their production levels, etc. If you're not running them, then you can run this. You can just add one of there. You can even ramp it up. See, this is going a hell of a lot faster. So this is now 400 and 400 and another 400. So it's 1200 that these 2 or 3 are producing now. So there you go. And it doesn't affect, you can't see it. There's a little bit there. I suppose that's not too bad. I don't think you can paint over it. I think this is a constant, and so are these. I'd love to be able to paint over these lines because they're kind of annoying. So yeah, it will accept Standard Industries as well. As you can see, there is quite a lot of coal there. We could ramp production up on this. So if we go to the output and say, yeah, 900, yeah, it started to use more of that, and it started to produce more steel. Again, our steel truck is over here and delivered steel, and this has now got 39 steel stored. If there's no goods for it to use, it'll use steel. If there's no steel for it to use, it'll use goods, and vice versa. Now again, I've set up a truck route as well. This e-truck is running back and forth and taking machines to Irving. Perfect. Perfect. Right, Freestyle Industry number 4. Now here's where it gets super complicated. And now you just need to pay attention and look at these. If you've ever done sort of logic gates or anything to do with electronics, I have. So this was actually, as soon as I seen this, I was like, okay. So this is 2 ins equals 2 outs. 1 or 2 ins, but you only need 1 of them to get 2 outs. This is 3 ins, but you only need 1 of them to get 1 output. This is 2 ins that you must have. So you must have, just say we were taking iron ore and coal, right? And then, so you have iron ore and coal being delivered. Now they must be there together, so it's an in and an in. Those 2 goods must be stocked in order to create the output. And you can say in and in, or you could have fuel as the third, and that will output, say, steel. So there's 2 definites that you need and 1 maybe. This again, so this is 3 ins equals 1 output. So 3 good types must be available on the stockpile for there to get an output. And this is 1 in equals 3 outputs. Now there is a custom here, but I don't know how that works, because it literally gives you all the options you can sort of get. Again, this one is accepting steel and fuel, and it's outputting coal and machinery. Oh no, it's taking coal, fuel, and steel, and it's making machinery. So we've got it set for 3 ins equals 1 output, and there they are. So there's the coal, the fuel. So, but there's a lot of fuel and a lot of coal. So maybe just ramp this up to 10. Maybe ramp that up to 10. There we go. And that starts to use more of that. That keeps things flowing magically. Again, there's another route over here that is taking machines over here just to sort of keep these going. But that's how they all work, and they are fantastic. As I've showed you, you can place any asset building, including industries, anything you want, even stations. We've got a fuel station over here, and what I was going to do is, because I thought I had all the assets, or some of them installed, but you could place a gas station in here. So take this for example, we'll just say this is a sort of makeshift gas station. Place that onto there. Now when the truck, so if this was a gas station, right, the truck would come in here, deliver fuel, and that would go straight to that industry. And like the food industry we've placed over here, so this one is, I believe, just 1 input. So yeah, configure, yeah, so this is 1 input. So this accepts fuel and it gives you money. So just say you had a gas station asset here, the truck would come in, deliver it. It would actually look like a gas station as well, because that's what trucks do. Tankers drive into the gas station. Normally there's a designated area for them, and the sort of filling pipes for the underground tanks are somewhere off to the side, or some of them are old school and the truck has to be right near where the actual pumps are to fill them up. There's one of those sort of old schooly types. Used to be near where I live, but I think they spent quite a substantial amount of money to dig everything up and move the pipes off to the side, because it was a very busy sort of petrol station or fuel station, gas station if you're American, and yeah, they needed daily fillings of daily tankers of fuel to keep everything going. It was a 24-hour sort of garage service station as well, so it was being used constantly. There's a few times I used to go and it'd be like 3 in the morning, and no matter how late it was at night, there would always be someone there getting fuel or buying food. That's the problem now. Most petrol stations or gas stations are now mini supermarkets, and instead of just someone going in and getting fuel and then jumping back in their car or truck or van and going away, they spend like half an hour in the shop, and it's like, what are you doing? Why? You're using up a petrol pump space that someone who just needs fuel can get in and use and then bail out. So yeah, it's kind of annoying. I think petrol stations should just only have standard things that you need, you know, like water, juice, crisps, sandwiches, snacks, just the light things, so that drivers that are hungry on their journey can pick something up. Cigarettes, not like sort of alcohol and frozen pizzas and stuff like that. It's kind of weird. But yeah, so this one, a truck would come in here, it would deliver fuel. If you had a gas station asset on it, it would look pretty cool, because it would look like the truck is literally going in to fill a gas station. Now, the best thing about this, the Freestyle Industries mod, is you can, as I said before, create whatever you want. Now, I'm a firm believer that Transport Fever is a bit unrealistic when it comes to some of its goods, especially fuel. I mean, this built in 1850, yeah, it would not have been a thing. It's way too advanced. They were only just starting to get fuel out of the ground. As I said before, or as I've said, in order to get oil back in those days, you had to jump in a ship and you had to go and hunt down Moby Dick. You had to slaughter Moby and then retrieve the gold and amber, the oil from inside it. So that's how oil was made, heating oil and stuff. There were other ways of getting oil, but that was the main source, whaling. So whale oil was a massive part in that. Oil derricks and drilling derricks and wells and stuff. Yeah, they came later, much later. So that gives you, if you were doing an early playthrough, I have seen that there's now a mod on, I believe it's transportfever.net, and it allows you to change up some of the game Lua files, or it changes it for you. And when you're doing a brand new start, it doesn't work on a saved game, but if you're doing a brand new free play, it will bump the date back to about 1800, or I think it's 1820, and obviously the standard vehicles that you get in 1850, like these don't appear because you're before that. So you need to be careful. You need to make sure that you've got mods installed so that these vehicles will work, or you'll have at least something that's going to work before 1850, or it's just not going to work. Obviously the Trevthick collection sort of I had for the standard around the world in time playthrough comes way before, so it's like 1802, 1804, 1808, so you could use them. The horse trams, or the horse tramway, is also available from a much earlier date, so you could use stuff like that. But if you were playing something like that, you could have, for example, if you wanted a fuel or heating source in your town, you could place maybe, for example, say Freestyle Industry number 1. Freestyle Industry number 1, you are going to produce wood. Logs. Okay, logs. So you're going to produce logs. In fact, you could use the standard in-game industry. So it produces logs. So get rid of that. Right? We'll grab a standard industry. I think it's under forest. There we go. So you could have your forest. Over here, you could have a Freestyle 1. That is... No, you would need a Freestyle 2 because you need 1 in. So the input would be logs, right? So you have that there. Input is logs. And just say outputs fuel. So you're transporting logs to there. You need to be careful with this as well. This can be sometimes a bit finicky. Sometimes you go in and you change it, but it doesn't actually come out. And it doesn't actually change. You just need to be aware of that, especially when doing these that have a lot of inputs and outputs, etc. So you could have logs, and then you could say have what's the logs? Fuel logs, or logs for a fire, heating logs, or no, not heating logs. What are they called? Kindling or something. Yeah, so that could be, if you were starting really way at the start, you could have chopping up logs, firewood, making it into firewood, and that is your fuel. And that's the fuel that heats your city, or that your citizens use right at the very start. And I mean in like 1850 sort of time. You could also have things like coal being delivered and getting turned into fuel. There is a standard standalone industry that does that. It's JK's, or is it JK? It's the Gasworks. But we're going to do the standard industries in the next episode. So yeah, that's something that you can do. You could make a little woodcutter's hut here and have it export like fuel, and that would be your I just had it, firewood. That would be your firewood that you could supply for your city. Now with the standard industries, we'll go into the city. So if we go to the editor, it gives you your 3 tools, food, goods as commercial. And it gives you your industrial, combats, machines, and fuel. Now the residents don't accept anything in a standard game, and even though I add in the Freestyle Industry mod, the residents will still not accept anything. But there are other mod packs where you can change what these are, and some of them you need to be careful because they change the sort of scale or the sort of spec of the game entirely. There are script mods that will remove all of this, and you will only be able to deliver what that mod says you can deliver. In that case, again, this is where your Freestyle Industry comes into play, because maybe it's only accepting like 2 goods, and it's like, yeah, but I have a lot more stuff that I want to deliver to cities. Then you start plopping these around, throw some assets on top of it, and you've got whatever you want. So a building materials supplier, a fuel station, a power station that accepts coal or something. All that can be done. And this is where these are really handy to have. And also, as you've seen, these don't interfere with any of the base industries. As far as I'm aware, they don't interfere with any of the other industry packs that we are going to look at. So that is going to be it for that. I hope that was insightful and helpful. Not really a massive amount of detailing. I managed to throw this together quite quickly, but there was a lot of stuff to explain, and I hope you guys have got a sort of better insight into the Freestyle Industries mod and how it works. I think it is truly magnificent. I think there maybe should have been something standard like this in the game so we could sort of make whatever we wanted. But hey ho, thanks to the modders for making things like this. They are awesome. So in the next little install of this, we're going to do the standalone industries, of which there are quite a few. And I'll show you how those work as well. Now those are really good as well if you want more authenticity and stuff in your game. There are ones that clash with other mod packs, and you'll see that when we come to it, but we'll do that in the next little episode. So this has been it for me. I've been Danny Min. This has been Transport Fever 2. I hope this has helped. Leave a like, comment or dislike. Let me know what you thought. If you're having any difficulties with these mods and stuff, yeah, so let me know if you're having any troubles. Obviously in the next episode, as I've said, we're going to go and do some of the standalone industries that are available on the workshop and see how they sort of work and interfere with everything. But yeah, that's been it for me. I've been Danny Min, and I will catch you later.